have Alexa Ng Stern, Parenting Children from China, Fostering an Ethnic Identity.
Hi, everybody. So for my thesis, I explored the post-adoption experiences of families who have adopted from China. And as you can see from this picture, my inspiration was spending a summer after my freshman year volunteering at an orphanage in China. This picture. So I had an amazing time, and it was a really great experience, and it got me inspired to do this thesis. So since China established the one-child policy, over 77,000 children have been adopted from China to the U.S. And most of these adoptions are transracial in that the adoptive parents are usually white. So I was very interested in understanding if and how parents were able to foster Chinese ethnic identity in their children. So adoptive parents' parenting strategies have to cope with two main tensions. First is the tension between sameness and differentness within the family, and the second is the related tension between Chineseness and Americanness. So parents can employ one of three main parenting strategies. The first is assimilation, the second is acculturation, and the last is bicultural socialization, which the last of which seeks to balance American and Chinese culture, which is represented by this scale diagram that I have. And so today, bicultural socialization is accepted by parents and scholars that study these adoptive families as the ideal strategy. So I did a big online survey of about 300 adoptive parents and also interviewed exactly 26 of them. And then I used a series of 3 regression models to analyze the data from my surveys. And so I had a series of 3 models, the first of which took into account demographic factors like education and region. And then on top of that, I layered parental attitudes about how important they thought socialization in Chinese culture was. And then in the last model included environmental factors such as whether they were living in a city, the size of the local Chinese population, etc. So in each model, the dependent variable was an index variable of questions such as whether the children went to Chinese school, how often they ate Chinese food, whether they celebrated the holidays. And this variable tried to capture the extent to which they were being exposed to Chinese culture. So, unsurprisingly, I found that the more important parents said it was to expose their children to Chinese culture, the more they actually exposed their children to Chinese culture. So, that wasn't too surprising. However, I see all were laughing. What was very interesting is that I found that the magnitude of this effect decreased very significantly after taking the environmental factors into account. So this was really interesting as a sociologist because it shows that although parents do have considerable agency in deciding how to raise their kids and socializing their children, they are very constrained by the structures that they're residing in. And these environmental factors are very important in shaping their parenting outcomes. So just in closing, while I was doing my research, I was struck by the huge diversity in families' experiences, and it was very, very hard and also very rewarding and interesting to try to find patterns through all these parents that I was speaking with. And I also found myself thinking a lot about how these Chinese adoptees really challenge what it means to be American. A lot of their parents would interestingly make statements that would conflate Americanness with whiteness, which I thought was very interesting because at the same time they were very defensive of their children's identity as Americans. So parents were simultaneously asserting their children's American identities and yet at the same time bifurcating a sense of being American and a sense of being Chinese. So I think that in the future, reconciling and incorporating these two conflicting identities that are often seen as mutually exclusive is going to be very important in these children's development.